Everybody, welcome back. I noticed a few people have subscribed to my channel, so I thought I'd do another review, and today I have something really exciting to share with you. I did a short review on the A77ii earlier, and I'm still very happy with the camera. They're getting to know lots of different things about it. But I had the Sigma HSM 70-200 2.8 DGEX Macro 2. And I just couldn't get it to work properly on the A77 or the A77ii as far as the sports, the high-speed autofocus. It had really good image quality, but I just couldn't get it to work properly with the camera. And I just wasn't happy with it. I wasn't sure if it's a lens or compatibility with the camera. But anyway, I sold it. Somebody else has it, and they're very happy with it. And in exchange, I saved up a little bit more money. And what I got, ta-da, is the Minolta. This is an older lens. This is the 80-200 high speed. It's in really good condition. It's also a 2.8 lens, and it's only a 72mm instead of a 77mm front end. Now, this lens, I've read lots of reviews about it. It's really highly rated. I thought I'd give it a chance. This has very few electronics in it. It has a geared autofocus motor. So you can see the cameras have shaft drives here. I don't know if you can see that. It turns like there's a shaft drive here, and almost all cameras, like the Minoltas and the new Sonys, have a motor built in as well to drive the older lenses. That is right here. Sorry, I'm going to press it in. There's a little screw drive or a shaft drive system with a servo motor built into the camera to drive the older lenses. So this lens has no autofocus motor. It has no image stabilization. It has no focus limiter. It has very little technology. It has a focus hold button here. You can hold focus on something. The chips here would read back the focal length of the lens back to the camera for image stabilization, etc. And of course your aperture settings. So I put this on here. Now, one thing that you have to sacrifice with this old lens is that the focus motor, I'm going to put this on manual focus here, turn the camera on. Now I'm able to manually focus this lens like this. You can see this manual focus ring here, and it does turn. The front element does turn with focus, and of course it goes in and out as well. So it's not internal focus. Now, if I turn this on to single shot, half press the shutter, you can see that the focus ring here moves as well. And if you put the lens hood on here, I'm going to give you a little shot. So I'm going to half press the shutter button. You can see that this ring moves here as well. So I find I'm used to holding the lens about here, and of course if it's trying to focus, there is no full-time focus, manual focus override on this lens. So you've got to get used to holding it differently. I've been starting to hold it by the lens hood and supporting it with the heel of my hand underneath the tripod collar, and it's just starting to get used to it. Now, one thing you'll notice is that this thing focuses incredibly fast. That's full focus from infinity to nothing and back. From 0, infinity, back, infinity. It's just incredibly fast focus. Not only that, this thing is incredibly accurate. It does not get close and then slow down and then go back and forth and micro hunt. It focuses high speed up till meeting focus and then stops instantly. Tracking focus, like for instance shooting with my dogs, I can do continuous focus tracking with the dogs moving. It will continually focus track the dogs and fire the way it's supposed to. Something the Sigma, I simply could not get it to do. Now it's also a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter. Tripod collar is not removable. Zoom ring is nice and smooth. It's all internal. Now I went out and shot with this thing at night just to see what the image quality would be at night as with regards to flaring and contrast, etc. And they had a lunar eclipse, and I shot lunar eclipse, and I got some phenomenal shots. I didn't even realize it when I was shooting the pictures. I mean, I zoomed in on the shot to check my focus. When I got home, I downloaded the pictures. I was just absolutely blown away by the image quality I was getting. The image quality far surpasses the 16-50 kit lens, which is a high quality lens. So then the next couple days I took it out and I was shooting in the park with the dogs to see how the focus tracking worked. This thing focuses incredibly fast. It keeps up with anything. It can focus, from very close to almost infinity, almost instantly. But I should note one thing though. I have set the in the menu there is something called AF track duration. Now when you go into here, you got the high, mid and low. It comes stock on mid. I've actually set it to low. It seems to work a lot better on low. On mid, it seems to jump around trying to find something a little bit more, and because the lens can focus so fast, the lens actually focuses back and forth really fast. So I set it to low so the camera just calms down a bit, finds something, and then holds on to it a bit longer without trying to constantly find something else to focus on. So that's not the speed of the autofocus motor, that's just how quickly the camera will try to look for something else. For instance, if your focus point drifts off your subject for just an instant, it'll instantly try to focus on that, and with this lens it actually does refocus on whatever else you hit. So I just turned that to low and it seems to work much better, just to slow things down a bit, and the lens still keeps up focusing. The other thing I should notice is that in the menu I've actually set the autofocus to center. Let me just go here. Sorry, get this into focus. I'm going to go to, when you're tracking subjects, here I go. I've got it on center lock on AF turned on. So what that does is I'll focus. Of course, it's not going to focus on anything now, but let's say it will identify. Let me just try this. I'm going to go like this. Focus on something. Okay, there we go. It's gonna. Let me move this lens. Sorry. Okay. I've got a plug on the wall. Okay. I put that plug right on the center AF point, and I half press the trigger. The camera focuses on it, but then the image sensor in the camera then will track that object as well. Okay, now I've got I've got it on single shot here. Let me just turn this. So I'm going to turn this to continuous on the camera. Turn it to continuous autofocus. So now everything's reversed because I got the screen upside down. Okay. It focuses on that, and now you can see the sensor takes over, And as I move the camera, it follows that cover plate, because the sensor has identified it as an object, so it's tracking it. But I take my finger off the camera, it lets go. Now it restarts from center. So whatever I start my half press on, whatever object I press, I'm gonna, here, let me do this. Sorry. Okay. Where is it? There we go. Okay. So now I'm going to half press the shutter. As soon as I half press the shutter, it recognizes that object, and then all the focus points become available. As I move back and forth, it follows it. So it's object tracking the focus. So it's really handy because I can start my shot or my focus point, half press the shutter with the center point on whatever I want to track, and from there on just hold the autofocus, the shutter button halfway, and the autofocus will just track that object even if it moves around my screen. And then I can shoot as well, and it will still stay in focus. So anyway, for those people trying, I finally figured out, a way that works for me. There's also literally object tracking as well, where you can actually turn on the object tracking, press this button. Let me just see if I can do this here. Go into menu. Yeah, that's the one. It's actually called Center Lock On AF. It's now turned off because I've got the camera in continuous mode, which is really ridiculous. Anyway, so if you go into here, go into my menu, go to my focus area. Sorry, there we go. There I've got it on. Okay, so that's where I've set my Lock On AF center. Is set there under this menu. So I also had it on in the camera menu. So I go into the camera menu. So there you see the center lock on AF is turned off. That's because my autofocus on my camera is turned to continuous. Let's turn that to single. Turn this. See, now it's on. Now when I press this joystick button in, it is on. Here we go. Tracks nearest to screen. Pick an object, press it again, and it will track the object. I find that extremely tedious. I find it does the same thing a lot easier if you just. I mean, I can leave that on. It doesn't really matter because as soon as I turn the camera to continuous, it's not available anyway. And if I go into my function menu, go over to focus area, and there we go. I've got lock on AF center, and that works great. That just, half press the shutter with whatever you want in the center, locks the focus, and then tracks the object as well with focus. So that's what I've been using, and it works. Seems to work really well. The other thing you should notice about this lens is that at the bottom here, when you press the C button, let's see if you can see it here. When you press the C button, now at the bottom you can see here you've got your focus limiter. So with the front and back dials, there's my infinity with the front dial, and there's my macro or close-up. I can dial up with the back dial. So there I can limit my focus. Now you can see with this lens, it's actually working. The focus is staying. Let's see if I can go like this. You can see the focus is staying between those two measurements. So even though this lens does not have a focus limiter, the camera now has a focus limiter which controls the servo motor which is in the camera. Now, the circuitry is all within the camera. There's nothing communicating with the lens here. So it's just amazing that I can get an old lens with really high quality optics and no autofocus motor, no image stabilization, no focus limiter. And now with this brand new camera, all the technology is in the camera. Now, one thing I have to say though is that the image stabilizer, it definitely works with this lens. I'm going to go like this. I've got it set so that it when you half press the shutter button, I don't know if you can see this or not. It's not going to focus now. It's too close. So when you half press the shutter button, you can set the camera so that the image stabilization is active with the half press shutter, or not. You can turn it off and on. I have mine turned on, so when you half press the shutter button, the image on the viewfinder is stabilized. And of course then when you take the picture, it's also going to be image stabilized. I have found though that with this lens, I still seem to be getting better quality images. The micro contrast is still cleaner, quite a bit cleaner, with the image stabilizer turned off. So, I just basically have to, raise my ISO. I really hope that the image stabilizer would work with this lens as well. But if I'm shooting, action shots, I'm going to be shooting 1/200th of a second minimum anyway. I don't think I would really use the image stabilizer very much. There's a few low light conditions where I might like to use it, and I've basically now figured out that it's somehow not working properly. So maybe the lens is not reading back the accurate focal length of the lens so that the image stabilization in the camera can stabilize appropriate to the focal length. I don't know what the problem is. It seems to work, but just not quite. It just seems close. But so I was out today again shooting leaves and had image stabilization on. Couldn't figure out why my shots were not, sharp. And turned the image stabilizer off, and sure enough, the image, the micro contrast, everything just got really, really sharp. I mean, this lens is incredibly sharp. So, as soon as I saw that there wasn't a sharp area in the image, I'm talking about micro contrast though, not general sharpness. It was generally a good picture, but when I zoomed in to, 100%, it was just not crystal clear, which I knew the lens can do. Turned off the image stabilizer, took the same shot, same conditions, and it was crystal clear. So anyway, just wanted to show you this is a beautiful lens. I love this lens. I pretty much only shoot with this lens now. I mean, I put on my kit lens now, which is my only other good lens, and it just can't compare. The colors, the bokeh, the saturation of the colors on this lens are just, this is now my standard, and I don't have much else that comes to this standard. Another interesting thing is, ta-da! 2x teleconverter. Now I've got this teleconverter. I tried it on my Sigma, and I've tried it on my Sony, and because somehow, I believe this is the case, I think because the communication with the autofocus motor, of course, has to go through these pins to the lens, somehow neither lens was able to autofocus properly. It just stuttered whenever I put this on. So I couldn't use autofocus with my lenses with this 2x teleconverter. The image quality, I did some tests, I can post the link. Image quality with this teleconverter is actually very good, even though this is a, Tamron. It's a, MC7, seven element coated lens. So a lot of people, they poo-poo these 2x teleconverters. They say they're not worth it. I did my own tests. it is definitely worth it. The image is just a little bit softer than without the teleconverter, but you're getting a 2 times resolution factor, and that more than makes up for the loss of image quality. The softness due to this is minor compared to the 2 times crop factor you get. So I'll put a link to the images I tested this on. It's definitely worth it if you're looking for, you know, a higher magnification. And what is really nice is now this lens, 80 to 200, is now a 160 to 400. And I've tested it out. Interesting thing is the autofocus, I of course learning not to hold it there. Oh, hold on. There we go. Okay. Now that is, with the teleconverter, it is still very fast. Of course, you're going to have a light loss of 2 stops. Now, that is not the same as, people are going to compare this against, you know, it's going to be a f2.8 becomes an f5.6. That is not the same as a 400mm f5.6 lens, because this lens, even though it reads, right now it's reading f5.6 right here, this lens is still at f2.8. The aperture is wide open. The light loss factor from the 2 times magnification is because the image is being magnified, which reduces the brightness of the image. It's not aperture blades closing down on the image from the outside. So if I was shooting f8 or below, let's say f11 or f16, I would start getting diffraction from the aperture blades in the lens. Now that exact same thing will happen at the same aperture with this lens, but it's not. It's hard to explain, but basically, your diffraction, if you're going by your display here, will not happen at f11 or f16. It'll happen on f22 because the aperture blades are still 2 stops wider in the lens than what is being displayed on the camera. So anyway, I think that having this lens with this 2 times teleconverter gives me an f5.6 400mm lens with the same short focus distance as the 200mm. The focus distance does not, the minimum focus distance does not change, and virtually the same speed autofocus on the lens. So I don't think I could even get a 400mm f5.6 lens that would do all those things. And I've also tested image quality on this with the 2 times teleconverter. It is phenomenal. I honestly, I do the 100-200% zoom. I'm looking, I'm shooting at wide open f2.8 on the lens. I'm looking for, lots of sharpness, and I'm looking for, chromatic aberration. Honestly, I cannot tell the difference on image quality with this 2 times teleconverter on this lens. So maybe this lens is just out resolving this camera, and the 2 times teleconverter is bringing it back down closer. I don't know what the case is, but I'm shooting, objects far away at night that are lit up by harsh lights, and I'm getting perfectly clear shots with this 2 times teleconverter on the lens. So anyway, just wanted to share that with you. That's my review. Of course, all the prices. I hate pushing prices of these lenses up, but honestly I just wanted to share this with you because I haven't seen anybody else really do a review on this lens online yet. So take that off. Keep in mind that the tripod collar does not come off. Now as soon as you turn on the camera, you'll hear a little shoot. There you go, and that is the autofocus, just the autofocus motor basically zeroing out. So there you go. That is 0 to infinity, 0 to infinity. That is just one of the fastest focusing lenses I've seen ever, and it is fun to shoot with. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching.